For weeks now, we've shown you everything Black Lives Matter stands for.
We are trained Marxists.
And the terrifying moves they're taking to change everything that makes America so great.
This country doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system.
We've shown you the importance of sending our kids back to school and the dangerous teacher unions that are using manipulative politics to get their way.
Public schools should not reopen unless their demands are met.
So this is not about politics for us.
Well, tonight, we'll show you what happens when these radical groups merge. And you won't believe what they're trying to teach our kids. Tonight, Brainwashed, how Black Lives Matter hijacked our schools. Hello, America. I am pleased to say Betsy Devos, the Secretary of Education, is going to be joining us this hour. We are making this available on YouTube for as long as it can last on YouTube, because this is an episode that everybody needs to see. We are basing this off of, this is only one of the files, 800 files that have been leaked out by somebody who is extraordinarily brave. I'll tell you about them here in just a second. But I need you to understand that if you are only watching mainstream media, even if that's just Fox, you are not being given the truth on what's really going on. Everybody is dancing around politics and yelling about the president and whatever. That's not what's going on. There is a revolution that is going on, and it is very well funded and very well thought out. And it is coming after our children next. If I told you that our children, their schools, the teachers, are being used by radical leftists as a dystopian brainwashing factory, that they were pushing Marxism and training children to be activist foot soldiers, I can guarantee you that everybody in the CNN audience that hasn't been told a jack on what's going on would say that's crazy. I'm hoping that that is not you if you've just been watching mainstream media. We have been covering these things on the Blaze now for a while. And I've heard from fans that haven't seen me on TV for a while. And the first thing I have to say is, yeah, I gained weight. Okay, get over it. Second is, Glenn, how come I'm not hearing about this? Multiple reasons. One of them is there's not enough time in the day. We are posting all of these right now at glennbeck.com. They're 800 files. 800 files. I don't have the staff to go through all of them. So what I'm showing you tonight is just scratching the surface, and there's going to be 2 episodes on this. But I need people who will just volunteer to go through all of these files and will actually say, hey, you guys missed this one. You guys got to know about this one. Nobody's assigning resources. A lot of people don't care. And some people are involved and say, I think that's a good idea. But I can guarantee you, I don't care how you voted Republican or Democrat, you will not agree with what's in here. And this, honest to God, is nothing compared to what I'll show you in episode number 2. So let me do some refresher. I once called Cass Sunstein the most dangerous man in the country, primarily for the way he dealt with people and education. Sunstein's ideas are summed up in an article that he wrote for Bloomberg. Open brain, insert ideology. This is incredible. This is a thesis that he has to use as an example, the Communist Party in China and how they just bend the brains of our kids. Cass Sunstein is a dangerous, dangerous leftist. And I thought it was bad back during the Obama administration. Nobody would pay attention to it. But it was just beginning to be spoken about out in the open. But it didn't kick in until about 2 years ago. I'm going to show you where all this came from later in the show, and I'll explain where these files came from in about 10 minutes. But I want to just show you a couple of things that are in there. First of all, here's a poster. This is for elementary school. We've got a Marxist making a fist. Oh, and a whiskered dude in a dress. This has been approved in schools from preschool through 5th grade. It might be in your kid's school right now. Let me show you another one. This sign also approved for kids as young as preschool. There's the Marxist fist again, and a blurb about black villages. Now, I want to read this one to you. There's lots of different kinds of families. What makes a family is that people who take care of each other. These people might be related. They might choose to be a family together. They might take care of each other. Sometimes when it's lots of families together, it can be called a village. Well, doesn't this sound nice? Hillary Clinton once said, reiterated last week at the DNC, it takes a village. And if you're a preschooler or a kindergartner or somebody who has even heard the name of Karl Marx, you know that that very reasonable thing doesn't mean that. It's by design. Oh, but I have the smuggled documents here that explains what it actually means. Because you can't just talk to 5-year-olds about concepts like Marxism and radical transgender activism. You have to slip it through the age-appropriate guidelines and propaganda. Oh, look, here's Black Lives Matter, their guiding principles. This is great stuff. Oh, restorative justice. Let me show you this. This is from the curriculum sent over to schools all over the country. Quote, as we think about discussing big ideas with little people, we consider age-appropriate language so our students or children can grasp the concept we're introducing and incorporate these ideas and language into their own thinking and conversation. In other words, open brain, insert ideology. The forefathers of cultural Marxism likewise knew that you couldn't talk about Marxism, communism, and socialism. Can't say those things out loud. So they used dialectics to hide what is really being taught. All the new language that you're learning, Marxist. That's how they brought radical leftism to the colleges and universities. This is how they're doing it now in grade school. If you take a look at their little dialectics key, which is right here, definitions, and types of symbols that you can use too, you will see this is all in the curriculum. Black villages. What does it really mean, that preschool poster? Well, according to this, black villages is the disruption of Western nuclear family dynamics and a return to the collective village. Now, gee, where have I heard that before? I remember. Black Lives Matter from their own publications. Quote, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children. I'm sorry, but my family is not in a collective. My children are my children. Never forget who these people really are. They openly brag about it. Watch.
I also think that it might, I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists.
Trained Marxists. That was Patrisse Cullors, one of the Black Lives Matter co-founders. You've probably seen that video from one of my other shows or seen it elsewhere. But have you seen this one?
The Labor Community Strategy Center is my first political home. It's where I would be a part of what it's famous for, which is the Bus Riders Union.
Started by an old friend of mine,
Yes,
Eric Mann.
Eric Mann, that's my mentor.
Wow. Her mentor, Eric Mann, he sounds delightful. Who is he? A member of the radical left-wing terror group Weather Underground. He was charged with attempted murder of police officers in Boston back in 1969. Black Lives Matter, that's her God. Her mentor. I told you that the violent radicals of the 1960s were training a younger crop to succeed them. Well, they have. And those people put together Black Lives Matter, and now they are teaching this poison to our children. I'll show you the schools where we can track down where this is happening. If you think it's not happening in your school, you are fooling yourself. With virtual school beginning all over the country right now, take this opportunity. Monitor everything that is being taught to your kids. If you see anything I'll show you tonight. You take that to the school board immediately. In many cases, I will show you later, teachers are implementing this material without approval. Let me show you this. This teacher from Philadelphia tweeted, then promptly deleted his concerns that with online learning from home, conservative parents might be able to listen in when they start preaching about race. Really? One county in Tennessee. If you haven't pulled your children out of this school district in Tennessee, you're out of your mind. They told parents that they were not allowed to monitor their child's virtual classes. Why? How about this? This is a photo that was taken of a child's computer during virtual learning in Los Angeles. Oh, she can't breathe. A concerned father sent it to BlazeTV host Elijah Schaefer after he heard this English teacher instructing her students on, quote, racial injustice and fixing the corrupt system. School this year just started. But let me show you what else we found. Concerned parents sent this in, sounding alarm bells all over the place. Look at this. Oh, that's somebody teaching, oh, no family separation, Black Lives Matter, climate change is real. Oh, this is great. Journalist Julie Gunlock tweeted this picture after she saw what her son was learning this week during online schooling. Is your child attending virtual classes this week? Move that desk into the kitchen. I don't care if it's in your bedroom. I don't even care if it's in your bed, if that's where you are all the time. Monitor everything right now. You can't get this stuff into schools without the most powerful and largest labor union in the country on your side. I'm going to say some crazy things, but they're not crazy anymore. I mean, is it crazy to think that we might be on the verge of a revolution or a civil war? Look at what's happening on our streets. Nothing is as you think it is. The National Education Association, the NEA, pretty much every other teacher union in the country is subservient to them. Well, they've been going hog wild in the last few months, pushing Black Lives Matter demands. In fact, you can't bring your kids back into school because of COVID without some of their demands. One of them is until they're safe schools that don't include any police officers in the school. Wait a minute, I was told you had to take my gun away and I couldn't have a gun, the teacher couldn't have a gun because it needed to be handled by an expert, needed to be held by a police officer, and now you want the police officers out? Oh yeah, they also want a tax on billionaires. They want economic justice and, of course, climate justice. And new charter schools are out. And private schools. And you shouldn't be able to home teach anymore. What does that have to do with COVID? They also helped organize a day of resistance a couple of weeks ago, quote, to advance a racial justice agenda in public education, in particular by organizing for police-free schools. One of their partners, of course, was the Democratic Socialists of America. Do not trust the teachers union. And quite honestly, if your teacher, they don't have to join them anymore. They don't have to give their money. If your teacher refuses to stop sending money to these unions, I don't trust that teacher. I showed you several weeks ago that Black Lives Matter fundraising, basically a dark money clearinghouse for the left. So teachers unions, there it is. These are the top 20 recipients from teachers unions and political candidates so far in 2020. Look at the names. From the National Association, Education Association, on down to the smaller unions. Do you see a single R there? Not one. They are a cash cow for the left while simultaneously pushing indoctrination into our schools. Well, Glenn, when did this happen? It's always been this way. We just didn't care. And now at the end, if you don't stand up now, you lose not just your country, you lose your children. That's not hyperbole. The National Education Association was founded in 1850 to promote government-owned schools and modern ideas. And they promoted the school system based off of authoritarian European systems like the one in Prussia, Germany. American socialist activists saw public school students as the perfect subjects to re-engineer society. In fact, in 1935, during their 72nd annual convention, NEA Executive Secretary Willard Givens wrote, "Many drastic changes must be made. A dying laissez-faire must be completely destroyed, and all of us, including the owners, must be subject to a large degree of social control. Quote, the major function of the school is the social orientation of the individual. It must seek to give him understanding of the new transition to a new social order." Doesn't sound like their plan had anything to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic. In the late 1930s, the NEA began implementing what is now called neo-Marxism through the teachings of Germans who had fled Nazi Germany. They set up shop right in New York City at Columbia University. It was called the Frankfurt School. I know all about it because I wanted to write a book about it, but Simon & Schuster said no one would be interested in any of this history. Of course not. This school advocated the death of American culture in order to destroy capitalism. And the teachers' unions would take this directly to public school classrooms. The NEA, quote, made a goal of education, not to educate the young, but to give them an anarchic self-esteem, deprive them of any sense of what's right or wrong. Wow, mission accomplished, check. In 1978, the NEA's executive director stated this is their goal: to tap the legal, political, and economic power of the U.S. Congress. We want leaders and staff with sufficient clout that they may roam the halls of Congress and collect votes and reorder the priorities of the United States of America. Good heavens! Reorder the priorities of the United States of America. But I thought it was all about the kids, all about reading, writing, and arithmetic. It never has been that. Teachers' unions are pushing cultural Marxism into our school, and they are doing it to fundamentally transform the country. And this is your last call, America. So paint me completely unsurprised when this shows up on my desk. A leaked batch of documents pushing Marxism and Black Lives Matter as school curriculum. And then I saw who the major endorser was. The National Education Association, the teachers union. I haven't even scratched the surface on this. This program will not even begin to scratch more than the surface of this, but I'm going to tell you about this and show you some of the terrifying curriculum enclosed. How does he say it? Open brain, insert ideology. Okay, according to a recent statement by Bloomberg in Yahoo Finance, the Fed will likely ramp up asset purchases. What does that mean? Did you know the Fed already is the largest landowner in the world? The Federal Reserve is? Oh yeah, they're just making asset purchases. Oh, and they're also making asset purchases on Wall Street, so they're buying up the shares of all of our companies too. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? Fiscal stimulus, out of control spending. May I just say, I'm glad that I bought gold, and I've been telling you for a while to buy gold, but I'm telling you now, we are, which is the worst one, DEFCON 1 or DEFCON 5? I think it's DEFCON 1 is the worst one, right? I don't know. I would be bad in nuclear war. I'd be like, we're ready to launch. No, we're having a picnic. Anyway, Goldline right now is offering a free silver coin, the heroes of two nations silver bullion coins. I think they're Canadian, with the purchase of every box of gold Liberty coins. These are the ones that I buy. And I want you to call Goldline now and find out how to get the free silver and also why I buy these Liberty coins. I just bought a box of them here recently. Please, don't dismiss the warnings now. Too many things are up in the air, and God only knows what's going to happen in November. Please do your own homework. Pray about it. Study it out in your own mind. But call them right now at 866-GOLDLINE, 866-GOLDLINE. They're waiting for your call right now, 866-GOLDLINE or goldline.com. All right, again, I want to start with talking to you about the 800 files. This is one. the 800 files of school curriculum that were recently leaked from a teacher. We know this teacher is a black conservative. He received all of these from a group of teachers at a recent teachers conference this summer. And he started going over it and listening to everyone, and it scared the heck out of him. I'd have him on, but he is rightfully very concerned about the backlash that he would get. The cost to his family and his career is too high. We have verified through a secondary source that he is, in fact, a teacher. He's been teaching for over 25 years. We also have done some homework on where this is, and we'll show you that here in a minute. Not only is it disturbing, all of this, but the source said he was told that teachers have been sharing this curriculum everywhere they can. And I'll show you how far it's spread later on in the show. The teacher gave these documents to our source, a friend of his, and that person put it all on social media. Not one single outlet has looked into it until tonight. Yet another case of the mainstream media failing in its job. But you know what? You are the only one that's going to make a difference. I showed you earlier the National Education Association has endorsed this. That's the teachers union. But it has a string of other high-profile endorsements, including the Seattle Education Association, the Chicago Teachers Union, the New York City and Maryland State Education Association. If you live in any of those cities or states, your kids, I can guarantee you, will be seeing this stuff soon, if not right now. And what I'm about to show you is just the beginning, but I found it a little shocking. Black Lives Matter supporters have developed lesson plans that start from preschool all the way up to the 12th grade. I don't know. Did the Tea Party ever do this? Oh, no, we didn't have the money. Do you know the money it would take to tailor things for ages and get it out to the schools and the unions for each age to be able to brainwash the kids on Marxism and how to destroy capitalism by using race, sexual orientation, and gender? To do that, you have to focus on some principles. First one, restorative justice. In essence, tear it all down and let somebody else rise from the ashes. Now, you can't say that to a 5-year-old. Instead, they offer this little poster to be hung up in your preschool's classroom. We know that if someone knocks down someone's block building, you have to help him rebuild it. You can't just say sorry and walk away. In other words, hey kids, here's how we justify riots. It's a Sesame Street guide to mayhem. Might as well just show a big picture of a big, happy, bumbling big bird tearing apart Wall Street like Godzilla for the entire Marxist village. Next is empathy. If you're white, you're a racist. To help students learn all about their racism, these radicals have a lesson plan for that. They recommend listening to a little Tupac while reading a poem from the Black Panther radical Assata Shakur, and then ask the question, why is the black and brown body hated so much? It's hated? Next, loving engagement. They define this as a commitment to practice justice, liberation, and peace. In other words, it's a summer of peace. Get out onto the streets, pick up a sign, and protest. This is a week-long curriculum titled Children and Youth as Change Makers. The goal is to teach kids how to become a social justice advocate and hit the street. This is for third graders. It is a 5-day lesson plan, Monday through Friday. It culminates on the final day with the following. Children engage directly in their cause of choice. Have children create protest signs for issues that they want to stand up for or fight against. Stage hallway protests, gym rally, or go into the neighborhood for a youth march. Our children don't stand a chance. They're not being taught anything except how to be radical activists. What the hell has happened? They're being turned into street soldiers as early as 9 years old, and most of us never even know it's happening. You think a 9-year-old cares about making protest signs and hitting the streets? Well, maybe a protest over the meatloaf, but that's about it. I'm sure you've seen the uptick of kids being used lately as leftist causes. A lot of us thought, why would their parents do that? It's not the parents. It's being taught to them in the schools. This is a group of kids that the writers of this curriculum proudly flaunted, no doubt after attending their little week-long activist course. Another principle in the lesson plan is collective value. Now, if this were college, they'd come out and say what they really mean. Capitalism is evil. Marxism, socialism is awesome. Private property is from the devil, and individualism is like a cancer. But you're talking to 5 to 18-year-olds. Instead, they say this: everybody's important and has a right to be safe and happy. Another way to say that is collective value. No. Does it sound happier that way? Kind of makes me want to read some Karl Marx and Bob Ross, watch him paint at the same time with furry little animals. Last week, we got a glimpse of the part of the Democratic Party's 2020 platform during the DNC. It included a full-on assault to eliminate school vouchers. You want to know why? Because you can't get this into private schools. Not true. You certainly can't get parents to teach this crap. They need every child in America to be instructed with their curriculum, their lesson plans, all of the stuff I'm showing you tonight, all of it. This is what they want taught. And if you attempt to get away from it, they're going to shut you down. Did you happen to see what was going on in the background of Elizabeth Warren's DNC speech? Looked like it was from a kindergarten classroom. There she is. BLM. Oh, that's what's in the end. BLM in blocks. This curriculum has been approved from the very top. If you thought what's being taught to grade schoolers was bad, wait until you see what they're pushing on middle and high schoolers. These kids are getting a crash course on Marxism and communism. It's insane. It includes an entire section on the amazing virtues of the Black Panthers. I am telling you, with everything in me, I believe these are the seeds of Hitler Youth. If this stuff is taught to our children, your children turn on you because you're a racist. You don't understand. Let me show you this. This is a handout given to students in middle and high school explaining the 10-point program for the Black Panthers. It starts with social justice and spirals into Marxism with the threat of violence. Students are then given this worksheet. Notice question number 2, quote, when the Panthers denounce robbery by the capitalists and say the government should give every man employment or a guaranteed income or else give back the means of production to the community, what political philosophy or system of governments comes to mind? Oh, gee, is it something we studied before? Like, I don't know, communism? They're pushing Marxism with the subtlety of a Sherman tank. Check out question number 4. According to the Black Panthers, what conditions might justify violence? Wow. When I went to school, I was taught nothing ever justifies violence because violence never solves anything. But now, any means necessary. Like everything with Black Lives Matter, the substance always ends with a full court press on communism, the end of capitalism and the end of the family. One of the handouts given to students is W.E.B. Du Bois, an application for a membership in the Communist Party. In his own words, it's an explainer for why he became a communist, why he thinks socialism is so great, and ends with a proposed path to make America a communist country. And they try to dress all of this up by saying, hey, we just care about Black Lives Matter. That's bullcrap. You don't care about any life. Because all you have to do is look at the record of communism. It ends in despair, depravity, and death every time. What about the Black-owned businesses that are getting torched every night? You care about them? What about the Black lives that have died recently in the riots? Do you care about them? This is a Marxist political movement disguised in social justice dialectic nonsense. And where did it come from? Well, most of the BLM organizers who created this are anonymous. The document is signed, quote, created by teachers in New York City. Well, that's pretty vague. But then again, this woman, Lelena Garcia, appears to be one of the few that's claiming ownership. She's the one taking credit for translating BLM's Marxist demands into child-friendly language. A little tip, if what you're teaching kids needs to be manipulated into child-friendly, it probably shouldn't be taught in the first place. following the Lelina Garcia bread trail, helped us track school systems all over the country that has been infected with this curriculum. Her curriculum was referenced at the Children's Community School in Philadelphia. It's a preschool. We next found her work being distributed in private schools in Illinois. You're not safe there. Most people put their kids in private schools to get away from this kind of garbage. But even going private doesn't mean you're safe. This is a private school in Dallas-Fort Worth. We've tracked this stuff in Baltimore public schools, Howard County public schools in Maryland, D.C. public schools, North Carolina's largest school system in Wake County. It's everywhere. I'm being absolutely serious when I tell you, monitor your children's schooling. Pull them out and start pods if you have to. It is easy to track the curriculum to the first places we did. But where else is it spread? These are a few pictures we found where the material has been implemented, fully out in the open. Do parents know about this? We got this document from a teacher in California. It's mandating training for teachers on how to teach critical race theory, should they choose to teach it, which is insane in and of itself. Critical race theory is a Marxist tool that convinces people that racism is everywhere. It claims that white supremacy is the core of the system, so the system must come down. I kid you not, this is in California schools today. This is from the school board in La Mesa, California. They paid $250,000, your tax dollars, to teach this crap in their public schools. There are so many questions that need to be answered here. For one, there's a clear political bias and agenda. Can teachers actually do this? Is this even legal? So what can we do about it? First, show tonight's episode to anybody who will listen. Get to your local school board. Make sure that it is known this curriculum is not acceptable. This curriculum makes the 1619 project look like nothing, and that's poison. We have to make sure that we are putting up roadblocks to stop this, because the left is marching on as if there are no more roadblocks. Use the uncertainty and the weirdness of this school year to observe everything coming out of your child's school. Make sure you use this time. And quite honestly, I love the teachers that teach my kids. But if they are giving money to the NEA, after they've seen this, I don't trust them. I'm sorry, I don't trust them. No village is responsible for your child. You and I are going to be held eternally responsible for what happens to our children. This is poison. And if you just think this is just a bad pill, you don't think this is poison, wait until episode number 2. Poison beyond your wildest dreams. So about 2 weeks ago, I had my niece come up, and she has a really bad back. And she said, Uncle Glenn, do you really use Relief Factor? And I pulled out the bag, and I'm like, every day, 3 times a day. And I said, how's your back? And she said, well, that's why I asked. And I said, just try it. In fact, this bag was almost full. I'd just gotten it. I said, in fact, just take this one. Just try it. And my wife looked at me like, you're going to regret that. And I said, you just try it, please. Well, I did regret it, because for about 2 weeks, I was out of Relief Factor. And I have to tell you, my hands were so sore, I couldn't stand. I was wrapped almost from head to toe every night. I was in so much pain. The bag came, my replacement bag, started taking it. Well, it's been 5 days later. I feel great again. Relief Factor, please, please, get your life back. Start taking it now. $19.95, that's for a 3-week trial pack. If it doesn't work, stop taking it. I think you're going to find 70% of the people who try it, it does change your life. It gives you your life back. ReliefFactor.com. Go there now. ReliefFactor.com. As I just laid out, the public school system that our kids are in right now being targeted by the radical left. And I told you, if you're not paying attention, if you're only watching mainstream media, especially CNN, I feel bad for you, because it might seem like this is way overdone, that I'm freaking out about nothing. But it is true. And the only way to solve it is at the local level. That means you. I don't think anyone within at least conservative circles would ever suggest the federal government would go butting their noses into the school, the city school boards. I don't want that. But I do want to see what the U.S. government is talking about and what is their opinion on this and how can we improve the quality of education. I'm thrilled to have with us the U.S. Secretary of Education, Betsy Devos. Secretary, how are you?
Hi, Glenn. Great to see you.
So, first of all, I don't know how much of the monologue you heard, or I think we sent you something online. I've asked several experts who do this for a living, people like you, and I've said, this is the end of the republic if this kind of stuff is taught and drummed into our head every day. And it sounds like hyperbole. And everybody I ask, they say, no, you're right. And I said, I'm looking for someone to say I'm wrong, that I'm overreacting. How dangerous is this? And how pervasive is it?
Well, Glenn, it's very, very troubling. And I think even before our realization today of what's going on currently in schools, we've had years of this kind of cultivation. We're seeing it today in streets in major cities across the country. And, parents today know better than ever, or better than ever before, what's happening with their child's education. They had a chance to observe it or observe what went on this spring. And in all too many cases, nothing went on. But in the cases that did, there's great concern on the part of parents. And it's very troubling to hear about places in Tennessee and Pennsylvania where teachers are telling parents not to eavesdrop on their students, on their children's lessons. And now more than ever, this points to really empowering parents to make those decisions for their kids and choose a different path for parents whose kids are being subjected to this.
So we did some research and we have looked, and it's in the usual places, clearly in California, it's clearly in New York and Illinois, but it's also in places you would not expect it. And I talked to somebody today whose job it is to try to keep the federal government out of things, but yet try to be able to give the tools to parents to be able to control it. And he said, the secret really is at the school board. And many of the school boards won't approve, like, let's say, the 1619 project or some of this BLM stuff. He said, but teachers, they are doing it. And the release of these 800 files from a teacher said the very same thing, that the teachers, one math teacher said, how do I teach this? And they are schooling them on how to make the examples in the classroom all BLM friendly. So even if you go to the school board, is that enough?
Well, I think it depends on the school board, clearly, and it depends on the community. But even beyond that, the most local decision-making body there is the family, the parents that today, all too many of them don't have the opportunity to really control their kids' education and therefore what they're learning and what their, what their whole environment is. So more than ever today, there's a demand, an increasing demand, to give parents the options and give them control of resources that are being spent on their children anyway, to be able to, if they decide to homeschool. I heard that Broward County, Florida being one of the states with a very widespread choice to begin with, but Broward County, more than 5% of the families there are choosing to keep their children home and homeschooling them this fall.
That's good.
That's like 7,500 kids in Broward County alone. This pandemic has brought about, I believe, a real turning point for K-12 education as parents realize what their kids have or haven't learned in the past and what they're learning today and what their situation is today. So many schools that are not returning to in-person instruction at all, not giving any families any option of doing that. And in fact, ensuring that they're going to stay remote for an indefinite period of time. So more than ever before, parents are demanding that they have choices and options to do with their students what's going to be right for them and their families.
So, Madam Secretary, it doesn't make any logical sense to say we're not returning to school until they're safe, when the CDC says it's safer in school. It's better for the health of everybody, including psychological health. And then they also say you can't have parents or teachers have guns. But now the NEA is saying, well, we can't have police officers there anyway. You just told us for years you were taking our guns or wanted to take our guns because we'd have professionals like police officers in our school.
Well, again, the reality is that parents are realizing today the deficiencies of some of their kids' educational settings and are demanding more than ever before. There's a increased receptivity, even among families who have moved to a good school district. They're finding and discovering their schools are not meeting their needs. It is a completely non-child-focused agenda that's taken root in all too many districts across the country. And when you hear that, the LA Teachers Board says we're not going to go back to work until it's safe, quote unquote, and oh, by the way, until we have universal health care, until we defund the police, until we
private,
whole laundry list of left-wing demands. And so this is a time where I believe parents have got to raise their voices, not only with their local school boards, if that's where they want the outlet to be, but with their legislators to demand that they have that they can control the resources that are being invested in their children. They're paying property taxes. Grandparents are paying property taxes. Businesses are paying property taxes. And they should be able to say, we want something different. We want something better for our kids.
All right. Thank you for being on the program. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with Secretary Betsy Devos from the Trump administration. She gets a lot of heat, but I'm telling you, I think she is exactly what we need. And if we have a change in administration, all bets are off. All bets are off on the future of our children. All right, let me tell you about our sponsor, Built Bar. I just got an order of the new protein bar, Built Bar. This is something my wife has been saying to me over and over. Oh, you gotta have Built Bar. That is so good. And I'm like, they're protein bars. All protein bars sound. Look at me. This is a finely tuned machine here. I mean, I just don't put anything in my body. It's got to have maybe plastic in it. You're talking to me about health bars? They always suck. I believe that there's a chance that Built Bar, there's no way they're this healthy. No way they're this healthy and taste this good. Really. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Tanya was right. This once, Tanya. This once, may I recommend, they will blow your mind, Built Bar. They just added 6 new flavors. The Oreo cookie tastes like you're eating Oreo cookies. Try them now. Just go to BuiltBar.com, BuiltBar.com, and use the promo code Beck, and I think you're going to save like $10. BuiltBar.com, promo code Beck. Secretary DeVos, we only have a couple more minutes left, and I want to ask you, I could spend another hour with you. The president just came out and said he wants kids to learn about American exceptionalism. I don't believe in the federal government telling people what to do in their own local communities. On the other hand, what's being taught is poison to the republic. Can you withhold funding from schools that are teaching things like the 16? I'm just using this as an example. The 1619 Project.
Well, that is a very valid question, and one I think, frankly, that our members of Congress need to wrestle with. And they have the power of the purse. We are certainly, from an administration standpoint, looking at ways that we can help encourage in major ways the schools and states doing the right thing. But the reality is that Congress has abdicated their responsibility
Every
in
time.
many ways, and they have continued to do so. And they continue to do so by protecting a system that has brought about much of the trouble that we have evident in our cities and across the country today. Again, I go back to the fact that today, more than ever, we know that the K-12 system has been broken for many years. That is being exposed ever so broadly now. And now is the time to make a change and to empower families and empower parents with the opportunity to choose where their children go to school, to match their family's values, to find those places where they will teach about American history and civics and exceptionalism, and to create new opportunities where those that are existing refuse to change and refuse to acknowledge the harm that's been done.
So there's a couple of things that, and I don't even know, do we have 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left? California's AB 5 bill makes it harder for contract workers. They're getting rid of Uber and Lyft and everything else, but this is for teachers too.
Exactly. I mean, now when families are left with schools not opening and they're finding creative solutions, those families with the economic means to do so are finding creative solutions with homeschooling and tutors and, forming these pods or micro schools.
And but those
comes out with a law that basically doesn't allow creative teachers and entrepreneurial teachers to do their thing. And it's just a travesty.
People are being trapped. They're being trapped in cities by Democrats that won't defend, that won't send the police in. They're being trapped if you live in California. Even though if you bring your kid to a private school, a judge just blocked funding from the CARES Act to go to private school. I know you can't talk about an ongoing case, but what should people do?
Well, this is a point at which parents have to continue to raise their voices, and I think especially with their members of Congress. And we have elections coming up in a couple of months. Pay attention to the issues here, and make sure you are doing what's right for your child and insisting that their futures have to be considered here, and that your desires for their futures have to be considered. And frankly, in all of this, I'm most concerned about the most vulnerable kids, those whose parents don't have the economic means to do something different when their school is not addressing the needs. And so again, it all comes back to empowering families with those resources to go and find the right fit for their child's education. I'm
sorry to cut you off. Thank you so much for spending the time with us tonight. Secretary Betsy Devos, Secretary of Education.
Thanks so much, Glenn.
You bet. Thank you. More on the radio on this subject tomorrow. Also, all the documents at glennbeck.com. Good night.